We tend to think people lose money because something dramatic happened. A hack, a breach, a headline. But that's not where most loss actually occurs.
Most loss happens on a Tuesday, an overlooked charge, a forgotten renewal, a small, temporary fix that never gets revisited. Nothing breaks, nothing alarms, nothing feels urgent.
And that's exactly why it compounds.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like normal work.
In this episode, we're not looking at spectacular cybercrime. We're examining the quiet drift, the gap between what gets reported and what actually drains money over time.
This isn't about fear. It's about pattern recognition and where people actually lose money.
Right. So jumping right into the source material, we really have to confront what they call the headline illusion.
Yeah, the headline illusion. Because, I mean, if you ask just about anyone, what keeps them up at night when it comes to their bank accounts or their business finances.
So we're going to say ransomware.
Yeah.
Or some massive data breach where all their info gets dumped on the dark web.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that is what the media covers. It's dramatic. It's high stakes. There's a clear villain and a clear victim.
Right. Totally. But if we actually look at the data and the research on where the financial bleed is happening, it's almost never a catastrophic explosion. It's a slow leak.
A slow leak. The sources actually call this financial leakage. Yeah. And it's insidious because, well, it's just boring.
It is incredibly boring.
We're talking about subscription creep. We're talking about temporary fixes. Like, say you upgrade a software tier just to get one specific feature for a weekend project.
Oh, I've done that.
Right. We all do it. And then it eventually becomes a permanent monthly cost simply because nobody remembered to downgrade it on Monday morning.
And that right there, that is the gap. The gap between what gets reported in the headlines and what is actually experienced in day-to-day life, that gap is where your real financial exposure lives.
Yeah.
I mean, you are far more likely to lose $1,000 over a year through unnoticed recurring charges than you are to have it stolen in some, Hollywood-style cyber heist. It's so true. So let's get really specific here. The sources break this down into something they call the micro-theft model. And I actually love this term because theft implies intent, but in this model, the thief is often just our own inattention. Well, sometimes it is external, but the mechanism is just so subtle. The micro-theft model relies entirely on the fact that the amounts involved, they don't trigger your internal alarm system.
They trigger neglect instead of panic.
Exactly. Neglect, not panic. And there are three main pillars to this model in the deep dive. The first one is a total classic. The uncanceled $9.99.
The zombie subscription.
Yes, the zombie subscription. It's a service that just continues billing long after its usefulness has actually ended. There's no alert, there's no trigger to remind you. It's just a standing charge on your card.
I actually want to pause right here and ask everyone listening right now. Think about it. When was the last time you audited your bank statement for a charge specifically under $10?
Not the big ones.
Right. Not your rent or your car payment. The little ones. If you found a zombie subscription recently, something you haven't used in 6 months, but you're still paying for, leave a comment below. I guarantee the number of people dealing with this is higher than we think.
Oh, it almost certainly is. And the second pillar is even more common, especially in business settings. Duplicate SaaS accounts.
Oh, this one drives me crazy.
It's rampant.
This is where you have, say, a project management tool, and Bob from marketing signs up for it. And then, completely independently, Sarah from design signs up for the exact same tool.
They're on different teams. They don't talk about their software stack.
Exactly. And now the company has parallel billing lines for the exact same utility.
And neither of them knows the other is paying for it. It is just pure waste.
Pure waste. Then we have the third pillar, which is the trial to paid conversion, the silent conversion.
This is essentially a dark pattern in user interface design. You sign up for a free trial. You enter your credit card details, quote unquote, just for verification.
Just to make sure you're a real person,
yeah,
right?
Right. And then the trial ends. But you don't get a loud notification in your inbox saying, hey, we're about to charge you. You just get charged.
Yeah.
And usually you don't notice that charge until weeks later. And by then you think, is it really worth the hassle to sit on hold and fight for a $14 refund? And often the answer is no.
And that is exactly why it works. The entire model relies on the friction of fixing it being higher than the pain of just paying it.
Correct. But look, we do need to move beyond just neglect, because the source material highlights a much more aggressive form of this, which they call subscription hijacks.
Now, this sounds more like the hack we were talking about earlier, but the sources say it's still really subtle, right?
It is subtle. A subscription hijack doesn't require a full account takeover. The attacker doesn't need to lock you out of your email or steal your main password. They just need to nudge the numbers.
Nudge the numbers. One of the specific tactics listed here is a billing method change.
Right. Quietly updating the payment details to a different card or a different account. If you have a business with multiple credit cards on file and one gets switched, you might not notice the flow of money changing direction immediately.
That makes sense. And then there's the silent auto upgrade. I feel like I've actually seen this one in the wild. A plan tier increases, maybe the service added some flashy new AI feature or whatever, and suddenly your $29 plan is $39.
With no clear confirmation step.
None. No I agree button. You just get a higher bill.
But the most insidious tactic listed in this section is transaction padding.
Transaction padding. Break that down for us. What is that exactly?
It's where very small additions, I mean literally $1 or $2, are appended to your regular charges over time.
Wow.
Imagine a service you pay $50 a month for. Next month, it's $51.50. You look at it and you think, oh, maybe local tax rates changed, or maybe there was some weird currency fluctuation.
So you just ignore it.
You ignore it. But if that happens across 10 different services, and the padding slowly increases over time, the compound loss becomes significant.
It's the boiling frog strategy of finance. They turn the heat up so slowly you don't even realize you need to jump out of the pot.
Exactly. And speaking of jumping out of the pot, or at least trying to, we have to discuss what happens when you actually catch one of these charges. Because the research reveals a massive paradox here. The cleanup phase is actually a brand new attack surface.
This was the part of the deep dive that really surprised me. We always tend to think that once we spot the fraud, once we finally call the bank and file the dispute, the battle is over. We won. But the sources say that is actually when we are the most vulnerable.
They call it refund and chargeback confusion. Think about the sequence of events. You spot a bad charge. You file a dispute. You are now in a state of waiting for a resolution. And that state of waiting creates an opening.
An opening for who, though?
For scammers who specifically monitor dispute activity, one of the major risks highlighted is recovery impersonation. Fraudsters can sometimes see that a dispute flag has been raised on an account, or honestly, they're the ones who made the charge in the first place and they know you're about to dispute it.
Right.
So they contact you, posing as the fraud team or the support team, saying they want to help you resolve it.
That is just devious. So I'm already stressed out because I lost money. My guard is up. But then I get a call from someone saying, hey, we see you filed the dispute for this exact amount. Let's get that fixed. And I naturally lower my guard because they know the specific details of the dispute.
Exactly. They have context. And in the digital world, context builds immediate credibility. There's also follow-up phishing. You might get an email referencing the specific dispute you just filed, asking you to click a link to finalize the affidavit or confirm your refund routing number.
But it's totally fake.
It looks completely legitimate, complete with bank logos, but it's a credential harvesting attack.
And this ties directly into the next section of the research, which covers the psychology of loss. The sources call this the second danger window.
Recovery is emotional. That is the key phrase we really need to understand here. Think about it. When something goes wrong financially, how do you feel?
Frustrated. Stupid, honestly. I feel like I messed up, and I should have known better. And I'm in a huge rush to fix it. I just want the red number on my screen to go away.
And that emotional cocktail, the embarrassment mixed with the extreme urgency, it causes your attention to narrow significantly. You start skipping the verification steps you would normally take.
Because you're panicked.
Right. If you're calm and you get a weird email, you check the sender address, you look for typos. If you're panicked because you just lost $500 and you get an email offering an immediate fix, you just click.
So the scammers are intentionally timing their outreach to perfectly match that specific window of emotional vulnerability.
Yes. The sources detail account recovery scams that specifically target people trying to regain access to locked accounts. We also see a huge rise in fake support channels.
Oh, this is the SEO manipulation thing, right?
Yes, exactly. If you can't find a phone number for a company, which is super common because so many tech companies hide their support numbers behind layers of FAQs now, you naturally go Google it.
Right.
Scammers buy ads or use search engine optimization to make their fake support number appear at the very top of your search results. You call them thinking you're calling your bank or your software provider, but you aren't.
And once they have you on the phone.
Once they have you on the phone, they can guide you to do almost anything.
Let's actually look at the real-life case studies included in this deep dive, because I think contrasting the drift versus the scam really helps solidify how this works in practice.
Let's start with scenario A. This is the drift.
Okay, so we have a business owner. No breach, no hackers involved. They make 3 very reasonable decisions. 1, they subscribe to 3 new SaaS services for a big upcoming project. 2, they set a domain name to auto-renew because they absolutely don't want to lose the URL. And 3, they add a paid plugin to their website for some added functionality. All reasonable.
Completely reasonable. That is just normal business activity.
But the project ends, and those decisions are never reconciled. Fast forward 18 months later, during a completely unrelated financial audit, they realize they have been paying for all of this for a year and a half after they stopped using any of it.
That is 18 months of redundant billing. And notice, no fraud alert was ever triggered by the bank. Why would it be?
Because the user authorized the charges.
Exactly. This is drift. It's financial entropy.
Now compare that to scenario B in the research, the cleanup scam. They call this the $49 catastrophe.
This is a really painful one. Step 1, a user actually catches a bad charge and files a dispute for $49. It's a minor annoyance.
Totally manageable.
Step 2, a quote-unquote fraud department calls the user. They reference the exact dispute. They say, "We see you're contesting this $49 charge." The user thinks, "Great, the bank is on it."
Trust is immediately established.
Step 3, the caller requests a quick screen share to, verify the account and prove the refund has been processed correctly. The user grants access.
And that's the ballgame right there.
Step 4, access established. The fraudsters now have full visibility into the user's entire banking dashboard. They initiate wire transfers. The original issue was $49. The resulting loss was $4,900.
So the massive loss didn't come from the initial problem. It came entirely from the response to the problem.
That is the critical insight of this entire section. The danger wasn't the initial $49 charge. It was the unverified contact during an emotionally loaded moment.
So a huge question remains. Why does this keep happening to smart people? The sources have a whole section titled, Why This Happens, and it starts with a really bold statement. It says, this isn't a story about incompetence.
No, it's not. It's a story about the conditions of normal work. The modern work environment is literally designed to facilitate this exact kind of leakage.
The first factor they list is just busyness.
High task volume. If you have 50 critical things to do today, reviewing a $12 ambiguous charge on your credit card statement is priority number 51. It simply falls off the edge of the desk.
Then there's context switching.
We are constantly shifting between tasks. Answering a Slack message, then checking a project board, then taking a Zoom call. When you switch contexts that frequently, you lose what the researchers call object permanence for your decisions.
Right.
You decide to sign up for a tool in the morning, you get distracted by 3 other crises, and by the afternoon, you've completely forgotten you even made that financial commitment.
And finally, the third factor is fragmented tools. Your billing isn't in one centralized place anymore. It's on PayPal, it's spread across 3 different credit cards, it's directly debited from your checking account, it's on the Apple App Store. There is no single cohesive view of your money.
Exactly. Chaos hides costs.
It really does. Now, we're going to get to the solution part of this and the specific 15-minute checklist the sources say you need to implement. But before we get to that checklist, listen, if you want to stay ahead of these digital patterns, if you really want to understand the mechanics of the web and how to protect your digital footprint, you need to subscribe to our YouTube NCWEBB channel. Don't miss all the new stuff coming out that breaks down these incredibly technical complexities into plain English. It is hands down the best way to keep up with the rapid changes we're discussing here today.
It really is.
Okay, let's pivot to solutions. Because the mantra from the source material going forward is procedure, not paranoia.
I love this phrasing so much. Procedure, not paranoia. Paranoia is exhausting. You cannot live your life suspecting every single email is a trap. It's not sustainable. But you can have a basic procedure. The goal here is consistency, not exhaustiveness.
They recommend a 15-minute monthly checklist. It's just 5 specific items. Let's run through them. Number 1 on the list is recurring subscriptions.
Preview your active subs. The rule of thumb is if you haven't used it in 30 days, cancel it. You can always just sign up again later if you need it.
Number 2 is small transactions.
Scan your statement for charges specifically under $15. As we discussed earlier, these are the ones that intentionally fly under the radar. These are the ones that accumulate into massive losses over a year.
Number 3, admin access.
This is a really big one for teams and small businesses. Confirm who currently has the keys to the kingdom. Look at your dashboard. If someone left the company 3 months ago, do they still have admin access to your billing? Often the answer is yes.
That is genuinely terrifying. Number 4, domain auto-renew.
Check your renewal settings. Do you really still need that domain you bought for a joke idea 3 years ago? Probably not. And more importantly, check the billing method attached to the ones you do need. If the card on file is expired, your main website goes down.
And number 5, recovery credentials.
Verify that your recovery email addresses and your phone numbers are actually current. If you get locked out of a critical account and the recovery email is some old Yahoo account you haven't been able to access since college, you are in serious trouble.
And the main advice here is to schedule this. Don't rely on your memory. Make it a recurring calendar event. First Friday of the month, money audit.
Automation beats willpower every single time.
Let's talk about alerts, because I feel like my phone buzzes nonstop all day, but I still somehow miss the important stuff. The sources say most alert systems are entirely misconfigured.
They are. The signal-to-noise ratio is completely off for most people. Look, if you get a push notification for every single marketing email or newsletter, you eventually just stop looking at your alerts entirely. The guide suggests a very strict enable versus reduce strategy.
Okay, so what should we enable?
Enable alerts for all transactions over $1.
Wait, $1? That seems incredibly low. Doesn't that create more noise?
It is low, but intentionally so. Attackers very often test a stolen credit card with a tiny transaction, $1 or even less, just to see if the card is active before hitting it with a massive charge. If you see a $1 charge you didn't make, that is your canary in the coal mine.
Ah, that's smart. Okay, what else should we enable?
Logins from new devices, password reset attempts, domain renewal notifications. These are all high-signal events that require your immediate attention.
And on the flip side, what should we reduce?
Literally everything else. Promotional digests,
Yeah.
those weekly usage summaries that don't actually tell you anything actionable, product updates that aren't critical security patches, turn them all off. You have to clear the channel so that when your phone actually buzzes, you know it matters.
So to bring this all together, what is the big takeaway here? What does this all mean for us?
It means that trust online isn't broken, it is simply mismanaged. We are losing money not because the internet is inherently evil or full of master hackers, but because we are moving too fast to see the patterns right in front of us.
The source notes that this deep dive was based on February's material, which was entirely about slowing down and seeing those patterns. It looks like the next phase, the March material, is going to be about building systems and trust architecture.
Right. Moving from just spotting the leak to actually building a pipe that doesn't leak in the first place.
I want to leave you with a final thought based on that context switching concept we touched on earlier. If you pulled up your bank statement right now and, really looked at it line by line, how many temporary fixes from last year are you still paying for today?
That is the real question.
It's not an attack, it's just drift.